In this lesson, we're looking at how to describe diagrams showing a process. Let's look at this example. This diagram shows how a central heating system works. We need to summarize the information and talk about the main features. So let's have a closer look. And as you can see, the system starts with water entering the building and flows throughout. And we have a lot of different vocabulary. So let's try to put those ideas together. So here are the stages in the process. And as you notice, we are trying to use the present simple passive. The water is stored, the water is heated. We should also try to use a lot of the vocabulary from the task, as you can see here, the pump, the taps. So let's make a plan for our writing. So there's a lot of information there, but we want to try and keep it simple. So let's just introduce the information, describe the process, and then we'll give an overview of the key information. So like a conclusion. Here's an example of an introduction. The diagram provides a clear overview of the stages involved in the functioning of a centralized domestic heating system and the equipment involved. Again, for introductions, you should look at lesson 6. Then we want to describe the process. So again, we've got all those stages which we looked at before. We want to put that together into a well-constructed paragraph. So let's look at an example of how we could do that. So in this paragraph, we've put the information together. We want to see why it's good based on the writing criteria. So to begin with, we have the opening sentence. First of all, cold water enters the building and is stored, so present simple passive, in a water storage tank. Then we link our idea together subsequently. Then there's the next stage, what happens. And once the water has been through the small tubes, it is returned to the boiler. And finally, so they are all the stages in our process. To signal those stages, we've used this language. And again, we've tried to use a range. We haven't just said first, second, third. We've used subsequently, once heated, once the water has been through. We've also used that vocabulary from the task to talk about the equipment. It's specialized equipment, so it's best just to use the words from the task. And here you can see that we've used the present tense. Present simple, enters, and present simple passive, is stored. And we've also used a few modal verbs, can flow down or could also be directed. So again, we've used a range of ways. Finally, we need to give an overview of the key information. And here's an example of how to do that. Overall, the diagram illustrates how a constant hot water flow is provided to the radiators and taps throughout the house, as well as how excess water is dealt with. Again, we tried to use the passive. So if we look back at the task now, have we done what is said? I think we have. And here, if we put it all together, here is what a good response looks like. And it's a good response because it has clearly addressed all of the writing criteria. So, things to remember for task 1, describing a process. Write about each important stage in the process. Just focus on the important stages. Organize your ideas into logical paragraphs, as is shown here. Use a range of logical linking devices to describe the process. And here are some of the ones that we used in this task. And try to use the present simple passive. To download a PDF copy of this writing or the podcast, visit English Online Australia.